Greetings, geeks. Welcome to Geeks in Space. I'm Rob Commander Taco Malda, and joining me in Pretend Low Orbit today, we got Chris DeBona.
Chris coming in from Low Earth Orbit.
Low Earth Orbit, and Rob Roseboom.
Words is hard.
Words is hard. Oh, we're gonna do that way too much today.
Yeah, drive people crazy.
It's true. Gentlemen, we skipped a week. How was Thanksgiving?
I'll tell you later.
Got it. Was everybody's turkey at least appropriate?
Yeah. I mean, you're asking, was turkey? And the answer is clearly,
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't find anything. It didn't do anything out of line.
It wasn't a meatloaf Thanksgiving or a tofurkey Thanksgiving. It was turkey.
Well, that's all right then. Let's see. We have many things on the list today.
I think I found where we left off.
I was just
let's get through them.
Yeah, we got a hard stop. We got 31 minutes, guys.
Whoa.
I know. So let's start by talking about the first story. The Dollar Tree is raising their prices to $1.25.
Yeah, man. There's all sorts of stuff in there that isn't $1.
I hear you.
False advertising.
Yeah, I went there once and they had a bunch of things that weren't $1. I guess they're just not pinioning on the dollar. So it's not the $2 or $6.
Well, and there wasn't a whole lot of tree stuff either. So, both parts of their name really didn't hold true.
Well, it's true during Christmas, where they can stick a Christmas tree on literally any object. I just thought that was interesting.
I find that sus. Well, did you see one of the Half is Interesting channel? Sam Denby. He did a thing on the rise of dollar stores from 1946 or 1980 on.
I've read a lot about it. It's actually a really interesting topic.
Yeah,
it's such a weird business.
Particularly like in sort of rural areas, the Dollar Tree
is the only market.
Yeah, places where Walmart couldn't feasibly go because they have such large inventory and such large buildings. The Dollar Tree can fit into a lot of those places. So particularly here in Michigan, once you get a certain place up north, almost all there is dollar stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking a lot about how it was a dollar store. Like I remember vividly as a kid, like in high school, we used to go and go buy toys at the dollar store just for fun. My friends would go buy little toy guns and run around the mall with toy guns when we were too old to do that sort of thing, but from the dollar store. And it's weird to me that a dollar still is there. It was for 30 years still their balance. So I guess inflation finally got us. The Tetris story is actually really neat. And you can kind of skip
the AI playing.
Yeah. So an AI plays Tetris. You can it's not even worth playing any of the audio, but it's an AI.
Whoa.
It plays Tetris. It plays really fast. But the thing that's most interesting to me is once you get towards the end, when it's up in the 100 millions, the game starts bugging out. Watch the last 5 minutes or so when you have a little bit if you're curious, because he's talking about the different things about how the audio starts clipping because it can't do the math to keep the scores straight and stuff.
Again, including all 5 million.
It's not worth playing into this, but it's actually really interesting. It plays for over an hour. It gets over 100 million points. And a lot of really weird things start glitching out. Like right now, he's playing in level 4C.
Now, you can hear that the game is struggling right now. The audio...
Wow, that's neat.
It's neat if you're interested in that sort of thing. And
I had seen this go by and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't actually watch the video. This is
you can kind of skip.
It's really you can see like the unsigned integers, being expressed.
All the 8-bit rollover stuff.
The signed integers. Yeah. It's really interesting.
It's neat to watch the last 5 or 10 minutes of it and just see how the game breaks down. I'm always fascinated by that. Super Mario Brothers is the one that I'm most interested in, of course, but to watch people who figured out all the weird things that you can exploit. Have you ever seen in Super Mario World the weird overflow error that lets you skip 90% of the game?
Yeah, I have seen that. That's really interesting.
And it's just bizarre. I'm fascinated by that sort of thing. Anyway, that's a fun one. Guys, there's a Canadian emergency.
I love that there's a strategic maple syrup reserve. I think that
One of
that's
my-
just brilliant.
One of my favorite weird facts
Yeah.
about Canada. For sure.
Well,
So let's talk about oil. So a long time ago, my dad, who was an oil man for a while, was asked to take over the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. as
was
an
your dad
administrator.
Bruce Willis?
No, he
Oh.
was not. And no, he really wasn't. He was bald though. You know, he we have our hair retention problems in my family. And anyway, so and he decided not to do it because and he said because what it is it's basically stored in an enormous old salt mine, right? And he's like, the problem with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is it's real, it's fine, we know how to pump the oil out. There's a lot of salt in that.
Oh.
He's like, so it's the kind of thing you don't want to take too much because you'll get too much of the salt and you'll have to like refill it.
So do you
and
want to
send it
cut
through a-
you want to cut your reserves with the real stuff?
Yeah. So what you should do is you should take the oil, mix it with some maple syrup.
Oh yeah.
And bring them together into sort of a good smelling version of, I guess, bunker oil.
Well, I know when you put sugar in a gas tank, I know that
Yeah,
works
that's
really
great.
well for cars.
Mhm.
So I can only imagine that putting strategic reserved maple syrup into a car engine would make it go vroom vroom.
Yeah, cars are very particular. And people think that oil is this like, thing that they pour out of a can into the oil thing in their car. Oil is nasty.
Oil's kind of
stuff.
gooey.
It's got so much crap in it that they have to take out during fractionalization and distillation. It's really something. Like sulfuric acid, if it's got it's really something. So anyway.
All right, so we got a story about Doom being played by rats, and Rob, you should, or Chris, you should
It's
definitely.
not mine.
I'm sorry, you should definitely pop this up and just go and fast forward far enough. Go to the second video. It's they've got a video of this rat on a big old ball.
Sure
Oh
enough.
God.
It's kind of amazing.
Look at that. Oh my goodness.
Isn't that crazy? So yeah, it's actually a mouse ball. In
a
that
very large
it's
rat ball.
Yeah, it's a rat ball, but it's literally like the technology is the same as a giant mouse, like an old 80s ball mouse.
Sure.
Except that it's a foot in diameter, and they have a little rat wearing a little coat on top.
Oh my gosh. That
And
is so funny.
It looks like they got snacks in the front. I can't tell if that's the snacks that he's pressing or if they're just buttons. But
No, I assume that's some sort of treat dispenser.
Yeah.
I would assume
and
like that's motivational.
for sure.
But,
like it only gives him more from that tube if he pushes on goes forward. I
If he goes
guess.
forward, yeah. But he figures it out.
Yeah.
And that little rat's running through Doom.
Yeah. Wow.
I just thought that was neat.
Or torture. But,
Or
it's
torture.
fine, it's
Well,
a
I
rat.
mean, he's getting snacks.
he's snacking.
If you asked me, well, I guess in
And
this
he's
case,
got a very cool sweater.
this is fashion. Look at that. He's a sharp dressed little fellow.
Girl rats go crazy for a sharp dressed rat.
That's right. Everybody's crazy about a sharp dressed rat.
Go through the exit. Go through.
Yeah, play the noise.
All right. I think that was the last of mine. The next one I think was one of you guys. Is leaked recipes.
Oh, I was looking around for something for a present. And I came across this cookbook. Basically, somebody went through all the email leaks and Pandora paper style leaks over the last 10 years, and they found recipes, and so they created a cookbook from it.
These
Oh,
recipes violated the privacy
the
rights.
Enron, Hillary's emails. It's like, but her emails, recipes. Yeah.
There's a really good story about God, what was it? It was I can't remember which podcast it was on. Maybe 99 PI, but it was all about how they trained all the text AI models off of Enron email leaks.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of these leaks, like they're all from like the late 90s, and so it has all of these, like it's got a bunch of sexism just baked into it in language. It's got, but also like
It's
phrasing.
weirder than that. It's super weirder than that. So we actually had this discussion at work because, this is a very common data set to find in machine learning.
It's used everywhere.
And they asked me, they're like, can we actually use this? Do we have rights to it? And we had one of those sort of copyright discussions where it's like, well, this is a very commonly used data set inside machine learning. That doesn't make it right or legal. But when they went bankrupt, whoever bought their assets technically would own the copyright to this, but also it's been pushed into not the public domain, but in almost like a post-copyright state.
Well, you can download it right now. I mean,
yeah, but being able to download something doesn't mean you have rights to use it.
sure.
But like, yeah, it's becoming this sort of post-copyright state where it was subject to the courts, and the courts ordered its release, but it was under
It's
seal,
actually
and then it wasn't under seal, and it's really interesting.
Who's
it's
the
really
lady who they took blood from in like the 60s?
Oh, Henrietta Lacks.
Yeah. It's actually like vaguely in the same vein as that. Like it's of questionable ethical origin, but like everybody's been using it for a long time.
Yeah, and unlike Henrietta Lacks, the Enron people are con artists who ripped a lot of people off.
Right.
So it's like,
well,
you have sympathy for Henrietta Lacks. You don't have any sympathy for these jerkbags.
Well, the podcast that I listened to is actually saying that there were a couple of people in these emails who were like caught like having affairs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of private stuff that was in there, and they rationalize it by saying that there was a period of time where anybody who wanted to could opt out. And apparently some people did opt out before that was publicly released. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting story. So are you gonna did you make anything out of the cookbook for your Thanksgiving?
Oh, I haven't received it yet. So I'll let you know.
All right.
I think it's probably, the problem is a lot of corporate recipes aren't very good, but I think it's an interesting artifact.
Well, Enron was based in Texas. I guess it's all different locations.
I wonder if there's like a chili recipe in there, right? Yeah, no, there's Enron. There's a couple of other leaks in there. So I guess we'll find out if Hillary's emails contain, I don't know, a good cornbread recipe.
That's right.
Arkansas chili.
Yeah. Tell me about Airbus paint.
So, what's going on is, for a while, Qatar Airlines grounded 15 Airbus 350s because of paint coming off it and exposing the interior mesh to
the article has a
outside
picture, right?
Yeah. So let me, that's a prompt to load the article.
Yeah, that was a prompt because the picture is awesome.
Yeah, some of these pictures are really something. So these aren't small flaws. These are, you have to remember, paint is going from 120 degrees Fahrenheit environments to negative, 50 while flying.
Yeah.
And so you've got these, it's corrosion technically, but it's, it's kind of a mess. And so they were saying, oh, this is strictly a Gulf problem because the Gulf's so hot because of global warming. And then it started showing up in a bunch of Finn airplanes and some others. So they've got to address it. I mean, the problem is these paints are as high technology as the plane itself.
Right. It's really hard to whitewash over this kind of problem.
Oh, that you were waiting to make that joke, weren't you?
Of course. Sorry.
Play the noise.
Okay, I'll do it.
We need one for Rob. But yeah, So it's interesting, and so they're gonna have to paint some planes.
The pictures are pretty terrifying, and like this is definitely one of those things where I have literally never before seeing this article thought about the paint on an airplane. But of course, that's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a hard problem. Like you think about I think about that in the context of like the moon suits. Like how those had to be able to fluctuate hundreds of degrees, whether or not they were in shadow or not. You expect it when it's, in space, but no, these are they're only going up, 10, 20,000 feet.
Well, it's a really interesting problem. I mean, like, how many hundreds of pounds of paint were on the shuttle boosters? And people are like, oh, if we had them painted, they wouldn't have thrown ice onto the orbiter. I'm like, that has nothing to do with it. But yeah, it's really interesting. And like, if you think about modern fuselages, they're carbon fiber and carbon aramid fibers and that kind of thing. And you're like, how do you get paint to really stick to that through that temperature range? I mean, those paints are really something. So, who knows?
Well, the next story on our list, I think, is the most obvious thing that I've read recently.
Yeah, like that's not news.
All cats have an element of psychopathy, according to the new study.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm trying to load the story. It's just it's
so-
all ads.
Yeah.
This is just like I mostly shared this because some of our viewers might take offense at this, Lampy. But there's so much social science that's just garbage.
Right.
That I mean, social science in particular has a very dubious place in that what was it like? They tried to copy all these different social science projects, and 75% of them or 70% of them,
Yeah,
they have a reproducibility problem.
It's just turns out that really isn't a science.
Right.
It's more like an educated guess.
Yeah, I have to be honest. So I love cats, and we all know they're a little off. Like I've gotten to recognize when my cat's going to go from "pet me, you amazing human" to "I'm going to bite you now."
Oh yeah.
I see his tail twitch just a little bit.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm out, right? And then I don't get bit, and the cat purrs until the last possible moment, and then I'm out. But that's not science.
Mm.
And from an ecological standpoint, cats are awful.
Oh, for sure.
Well,
They kill-
awful, or they maintain the world against vermin.
Vermin, any small mammals, birds, reptiles, anything
children.
that's small enough for them to kill.
Yep.
They did a study that showed I can't remember how many billions of animals they kill every year.
Yeah. Especially birds.
There's a reason there's a bounty on them in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Because they've pretty much killed every bit of native wildlife that's cat-sized or smaller. They're a problem.
A quote that I just read earlier today. It's all cats are libertarians. They're completely dependent on others, but fully convinced of their own independence. That definitely is the story of my house, and I have 4 cats.
So the part that cracks me up about this is we developed and validated a questionnaire method of triarchic psychopathy in cats. How's a cute little kitty? Little kitty gonna murder me? Little kitty so cute.
So we took a thing that's really, really, really hard to quantify in humans, and then tried to apply it to something that can't talk.
I should find somebody who has a copy of this article.
That's right. I actually
Cliff could probably read it.
The only way that I think you can truly measure psychopathy is to listen to laughs. And that's how you can tell. Like if they make noises like that, they're crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's next on the list?
It's so funny because it's a proper paper. They have their conflicts of interest listed.
Might be dog people.
Declaration of competing interest. Rebecca has a Shih Tzu.
That's great. You know what?
Or like one of them owns a peach-faced lovebird and doesn't like cats.
They had fun.
Oh yeah,
This is not the hardest of science.
Yeah, I'm not going to be purchasing this PDF. Cliff, go get it.
Does he get? Can he expense that?
Scholarship is. Well, I could probably access it through Google. We probably have a thing,
I hope not. I hope you're not paying. I hope nobody's paying for that. I know they are.
No, we pay overall for access. I'm sure,
Because
and then there's the Google Scholar relationship,
right?
That people really like.
Because if there's one industry that's known for being upstanding, it's the scholarly journal industry.
Oh boy, that's complicated. All right,
Uh-huh.
so
EA.
Let's talk
EA's
licensing costs.
let's talk licensing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of, EA's given up on Battlefront 3, and nobody cares because Battlefront 2 sucked.
It did suck.
But they're doing it because the licensing costs apparently were too high, which kind of makes sense.
Well, I mean, so Lego. When you buy a Lego that's all Star Warsy, it's usually 20 to 30% more than the equivalent set would be if it had no Lego branding.
Yep.
Right. So it's like that's your delta. So EA is saying we need to make more if we're going to produce $200 million title.
Well, and
Okay.
this is a particularly interesting case too, because they have access to their numbers, and Battlefront 2 was notorious for being a pay to win, pay to get your skins, pay
Yeah, that
for
was the loot box one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that was the loot box one. I played like the first few hours of it, and it's gorgeous. It's really beautiful. But I'm not. After I've just bought a AAA title, I'm not spending an extra. I'm not putting more money in to have my character be shinier. That's not how I roll. It makes me
If
kind
you
of
want
angry.
a purple lightsaber, you gotta pay.
Yeah, man. I mean, Red Dead Redemption, I got a lot of hours out of that game collecting horses and stuff, but I didn't have to go pay extra money for it.
Yeah.
I get it when you're a $6 free to play, that's a different deal. But if I'm gonna pay $60 to start my game, then you can't start nickel and diming me after that.
Yeah.
And I think that they probably are looking at the licensing fees there and saying, well, the fans really freaked out last time, so we can't do that again. Let's see.
There's a thing that goes on in licensing, and this happens across the board. It's like Apple; they'll go and they'll say, "Okay, we've identified the supplier," and the supplier's like, "Oh, I'll make this much. Okay, that makes sense." And then the good suppliers are like, then Apple comes back a year later and says, "Well, we're going to pay you this much now," and then the supplier is either going to say, "Okay," until they start taking a loss, and then it's over.
Yep.
It's just like all these folks in logistics for hardware supply and these software licensing types, they know exactly how much money you're making, and until they turn you into basically a unpaid subsidiary.
Well, isn't this just basically every single business in the entire hierarchy of capitalism?
Yeah, it really is. And so so there was one supplier, and I'm not going to say who they were, but they were making accessories for Apple and the rest, and they had a spreadsheet, and they're like, when this number hits here, we fire everybody and shut the doors. And true to form, Tim Cook came out and said, "Okay, we need to do it for this much," and they're like, "Okay, we're not doing it anymore." He's like, "Okay," and he goes to the next business down the road, and they're like, "Okay, sorry everybody," and they laid off 300 people overnight.
Yeah.
So.
Yay. So Walmart toys. Who wants this one?
Yeah, this year's my toy swore to my grandchildren. Except this one's actually real, in that usually it's like some garbled thing, and maybe if you strain, it's like listening to subliminal messages. We're of that age where that was a big thing.
Yep.
This one though, they actually took some Polish rapper and just put a recording of him into this toy, and indeed it is singing about cocaine and crazy shit in Polish. So there's that.
Look at that thing. And it's so charming.
Yeah.
And it's clear they just took like a Groot thing, stuck a sweater on it, and and gave it some rappy, terrible lyrics,
Yeah, it's a Polish baby Groot.
This is supposed to be a singing cactus.
And you tap a toy for her granddaughter.
I wish I wish all of our toys sang about cocaine.
I was in shock. I didn't know, like.
Good for her.
House already. There's nothing to live for. Very depressing song.
The cactus was sold months ago in Europe, where other families noticed the lyrics. The Polish artist said
all right.
That's awesome.
There's that.
I mean,
that's a great story.
That's easy to do, right? If you took a quarter of the songs off the top 40, you'd find offensive lyrics like that could be offensive to somebody.
Yeah,
it's funny.
You should screen cap this guy as our picture for
and
this
said he
one.
planned to take.
Bam! Screenshot.
All right. sorry.
No, that was the screenshot sound. Let's see here. Oh, this one sucks. The guy who was locked up.
Dude,
Oh,
that story is crazy.
whoa. That's not okay.
The TLDR, this guy was picked up by the police. The police who picked him up thought he was this other guy. He said he wasn't. They're like, yes, you are. He ends up in this mental health facility. And that's a thing where you watch,
In
shows
business,
about people
setbacks
who
change
get
everything.
off on a crime by acting crazy,
Yeah.
like it's better. If you end up being involuntarily placed in one of these
In
places,
prison, yeah.
you could be there your entire life.
Yeah.
Because it's up to the doctor's discretion then.
Yeah.
If you're in jail, at least you have a set time you're going to get out. Anyway, so this guy ends up at this mental health facility. They're like, why are you doing this, John? And he's like, I'm not John, I'm Joe. And they're like, proof that you're crazy.
Yeah.
So this goes on for 2 years before finally someone figures out, oh, wait, you aren't John after all. Our bad.
Are bad.
Wow. And they had him in, it was 8 months he was in there? Wow. I like how they're like, oops. And then they just sort of like said, drove by a homeless shelter, pushed him out of the van.
Right.
Well,
Well, that's
here's
the
your
thing.
50 cents. Sorry, bud.
That's the thing, right? I'm not crazy. That sounds like what a crazy person would say.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. That stinks.
Yeah, man. That's not cool. Well, I hope he wins back all the money.
Yeah, like $1.50.
I hope he gets back more than that. The last one I think was from you, Chris. We have the better
Oh
internet
yeah,
stuff.
so we have the 10th anniversary of SOPA PIPA stuff, the protests coming up, and so the Creative Commons folks who were part of that movement, they're launching this Better Internet series where they're going to try to, push for more open internet standards and the rest, and so they're I think they're raising a little bit of money and they're going to distribute it and stuff, and yeah, so there you go. It's a new alliance to try to protect the internet from becoming a big walled garden, and it's nice,
Yeah, you know my feelings on the walled gardens.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, there's only like 3.
Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
You Google, Reddit, whatever.
Google's not a walled garden. What, Google Plus is keeping you out?
It's not just about the social media, Chris.
Okay.
Let's see.
I think that's, is that it?
All right.
That was the last
I
one.
gotta go.
All right. The only other thing I had was Hawkeye.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah.
Because, Rob's got to go. All right.
All right. Goodbye, Rob Roseboom.
See ya.
Goodbye,
Bye,
Chris
Rob.
DeBona.
Bye, Rob.
I was Rob Commander Taco Malda. That was episode 681 of Geeks in Space. Bye.